You're listening to a CNA podcast.
Asia's capital cities are intimately connected with water. It's been like that since their origin days. But water from the sky, from the sea, and from rivers is increasingly becoming a threat to urban space because of sprawling populations, poor design, and climate change. Today, we're just trying to stay afloat. Hi, and welcome to Climate Conversations. I'm Jack Board, and hello in person to Liling Tan. Wow, we're together in the studio.
I know, what a rare treat.
I don't know if it matters for anyone listening to this, but hey, we're in the same room, everybody.
Yeah, so we speak to each other every week, just about. But we've only seen each other in person, this is the second time?
It's the first recording, yeah.
It was our first recording in person together. But yeah, we've met once before, and that was just, about a month ago? So twice in a month, that's not too bad.
All right, let's just jump straight into the quiz. Because what an opportunity to grill you in person. Making sure you're not pulling out your encyclopedia.
Yeah, you're enjoying this too much.
Yeah, okay. I need to be a game show
Move
host,
on.
maybe. Now, this one's going to be tied closely to our discussion today, which is about sinking cities, water in our cities. And it's a special ranking game, which I know is one of your favourite formats. Can you rank these cities by how much they're sinking each year? Cities, of course, sink for many reasons. The weight of urban development, all those buildings, the cars, the concrete, the extraction of groundwater, the geological movements, and of course, climate change. Now, quick fact that might help you. 44 of the 48 largest coastal cities are sinking faster than sea level rise.
Wow.
So here are your 5 options. Ho Chi Minh City,
Okay.
Venice,
Okay.
Jakarta, Istanbul, and Manila.
Why you gotta go with 5? Why not 3? Or just top most sinking fastest? All right, 5. All right. Okay. Let me think about this.
Answers will be at the end. Okay, news time. We are both in the newsroom, but that's your job. What are some of the stories that have captured your attention this
Okay,
week?
first up, we have an explainer about why Singapore and Southeast Asia could see a wetter, rainier end to the year. CNA's own Ang Hui Min laid it out for us in an article. Firstly, we are entering the northeast monsoon season, so we already usually have wet weather at this time of year. But it appears that an incoming El Nino weather system will likely make it worse as surface water on the Western Pacific gets warmer and evaporates and then turns into rain. So projection models show it will mean wetter weather over the next 2 months and possibly into early 2025. There's no escape for you, Jack.
No.
Yeah, for us. I mean,
It's been a super wet season already.
In Bangkok too, yeah,
I've
imagine.
seen that through so many devastating floods through Thailand and the surrounding region this year.
Yeah, and that also, it could put lives at risk, right? Not just the flooding, but also there's the higher risk of landslides or mudslides that can really cause people to get injured or even killed.
Yeah.
Also, next story, water related as well, but this time it's a lack of it. Now, this CNA article, of course, was penned by you, Jack Board, and in it, you tell us that experts say we are experiencing an unprecedented stress on water resources, disrupting rain patterns, and this is causing a global crisis. Tell us more.
Yeah, this was based on a recent report by the Global Commission on the Economics of Water. Found that the process where water moves throughout the earth, this kind of natural process and the atmosphere, is being mismanaged by us so badly. We're interfering with it so much that it is threatening our water supply and the viability of our existence on the planet.
Right.
So that's being compounded by the effects of climate change, destructive land use, and water scarcity is then leading to food shortages. It's just one of the impacts.
So basically that means by 2050, high-income countries can lose about 8% of their GDP.
Which is significant.
Right?
Yep.
This could lead to changing rain patterns, higher temperatures, and also declining water storage levels. And that could hit hard at agriculture and irrigation systems. And in lower income countries, we're looking at nearly twice the GDP loss of 15%, with hot spots in parts of India, China, and Europe.
Yeah. This will impact half of the world's population by 2050. Okay, it's time for our main story this week. Not too long ago, I headed out from Bangkok to the coast. I was visiting the community of Bangkok, which is basically the Land's End of Greater Bangkok at the Gulf of Thailand. Now, it's always nice to take a trip to the sea for work, but things here are a little different. This is the front line of one of several water threats to the Thai capital. We're talking sea level rise. And the resulting erosion means that land is being taken away pretty alarmingly. There's this concrete outpost that used to mark the edge of the land that's now hundreds of meters away in the sea. I had to fly my drone out there to even catch a vision of that. The loss here is kind of the alarm signal about how endangered Bangkok is due to water. And we've known this for a long time. And the problem isn't going away though, and there's a really big, controversial idea that's been floated to solve it. More on that later. But this challenge is kind of how we framed at CNA Digital a big piece looking at this issue of managing water, the merits of these mega projects, what is green versus grey infrastructure, and the debate that's going on. That story is out today, everyone. Get excited.
Yes, and I see you brought your collaborators here with you today, Jack.
I did.
The triple threat from the CNA International Digital Team. Nivell, Rayda.
Hello.
Hi, our Indonesian correspondent. And Rashvinjeet, Bedi from Malaysia.
Hello. Hi.
Hello, and welcome to the show. So it's good to have all of you here, especially you, Jack, in person too, after all this time, to discuss some of the more interesting and critical aspects of this mega project that you guys spent months working on. Now, the topic is around water, something all four of us here have reported on or covered to varying degrees: sinking cities, rising sea levels, that sort of thing. I want to hear about your experience in putting together this, and not just within the three cities you're based in. So let's start with Jakarta. Nivell, we know a new capital is being built, Nusantara. Now, how much of a factor did Jakarta's water issues play in this drastic decision to actually relocate an entire capital and all the governing functions that come with it?
Well, I mean, Jakarta has always been flood prone, even before it became Jakarta, as we know and love today. It sits on a low-lying area. Into the south is a big mountain range where all the rivers originate. So Jakarta has always been flood prone, and plus the fact that the city is sinking at a rate of between 1 to 26 centimeters every year.
Wow.
It's drastic.
That's so drastic. So it has an 11 million population, and of course water is a very important issue for the 11 million city inhabitants. So basically, year after year, government after government, they try to solve the issue. In fact, one city planning expert says to me, like, Jakartans really have only two dreams: a traffic-free Jakarta and a flood-free Jakarta.
Oh, wow.
You know.
Which one is more realistic?
Yeah. So the thinking behind the decision is Jakarta is basically overburdened, and let's move some of the people to this new city, which we will build from scratch, called Nusantara. You know, and another thinking behind it is because the flood has gotten so worse. Sometimes it affected the presidential palace.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's been a big issue, and no one has been able to really solve it. And it's costing Indonesian taxpayers billions and billions of dollars every time there's a flood.
It's kind of quite startling to think that there is no other solution to this than to like uproot millions of people and relocate them somewhere else. So that's
I think like what Nivell raised in the story is that actually there are so many people left behind, right? And so you just because you move the capital doesn't mean
the problem is going away.
Forget about this problem.
You've spoken to many of these people who are left behind in this capital relocation. What struck you the most about what they're up against?
Just a feeling of hopelessness. I went to this one area in the coastal area of Jakarta. The whole neighborhood is basically already 5 meters below
5 meters
sea level, right?
Wow.
Median sea level. So during the peak tidal cycle, then maybe it could be more. So
more than 5 meters
more than
below
5
sea
meters.
level. Good
so
grief.
you can already see the mass of the boats from your second floor already
Wow.
Like at eye level.
Yeah, it's already eye level. Yeah, and water there cannot go anywhere. So when it rains, for example, it just stays there for days.
Is anything going to be done for these people who are left behind?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the thing. And what I also see is that there is a discrepancy between the technical solution or the infrastructure solution between the more affluent neighborhood in the coastal areas and the sort of like the lower middle neighborhood, right? For example, in the higher upper class, they built like this really beautiful dikes, and which is like 2 meters long, and then reinforce it with wave breakers and tetrapods, you know,
Yeah.
it's concrete tetrapods, and in the small neighborhood is just protected by like, I don't know, like sandbags, you know.
You know, but that's kind of the age-old story, right? The people who have, they can buffer themselves against these kind of catastrophes, and, you know, it always has a more severe impact on the people who are more vulnerable. I also wanted to talk about this idea of a seawall.
Massive seawall.
It's hard to conceive. Is it even possible, and how would it help?
So the thinking behind it is because Jakarta is sinking, then all these coastal defenses are also sinking. So no matter how you build a wall this tall, for example, like 10 meter tall, by the following year, it's going to be sinking, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So they have to constantly raise it. They have to constantly reinforce these walls, basically. So the thinking behind it is, let's build a wall where it's not sinking. And where it's not sinking is about like 4 or 5 kilometers off the coast of Jakarta. So they're building a proper sea dike to protect the city from sea level rise.
It is going to happen. The new president is seemingly keen.
Yes, he is keen.
What kind of time frame?
Yeah, I mean, the plan changes and the time frame changes from time to time. They say they're going to start in 2025, and then they say they're going to start in 2027, and then now we don't know anymore with the new president what his plan is.
Okay, so akan datang, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the whole design. It's going to double as a toll road. And then that will create this like man-made lake because of the fresh water that is being fed into this new pond.
New real estate development.
New real estate,
homes.
So there's your grey infrastructure, right? So staying on this idea about big ideas, Jack, you teased a big controversial idea for Bangkok as well. Something similar to Jakarta in the works? Are we talking about seawall? We're talking about relocation?
Scale, yeah, we're talking about a real mega project, which was recently floated by Thaksin Shinawatra, political doyen, father of the current Prime Minister Paetongtarn Tan. And it's a visionary idea that's called at the moment the Pearl Necklace of the Gulf of Thailand. The idea is that they want to build 9 artificial islands that stretch across 100 kilometers of the Gulf of Thailand, which would be including different types of water gates that could be opened and closed. They would have ports and railways that connect them. They'd have golf courses and shopping malls. But the idea is that they're blocking the sea in the same way that Jakarta is talking about blocking the sea. It seems far-fetched, right, to be thinking of something at this scale. And of course, there are a lot of detractors to what is just a vision at this point.
Well, got to think out of the box, right? I guess.
Yeah, the Gulf of Thailand is super important in terms of Bangkok's defense. Bangkok is very low, 1 to 2 meters on average above sea level. And as sea level rise continues and Bangkok sinks, just like Jakarta is sinking, floods will become more of a factor. And there are some projections that, you know, by 2030, a major flood could flood 96% of the city, which is just something that the city cannot allow to happen. So this is an idea that other cities have in similar forms, like in the Netherlands, they also have these types of coastal defenses. But the difference with Thailand is you also have river flooding. So Bangkok is also on the receiving end of rivers. What happens if you block off the sea, yet you have a huge influx of water
Where's it all
coming from
going to
the
go?
north? Where's that going?
Yeah.
And are you just creating a massive pool of stagnant water that's just going to suddenly go back and flood Bangkok exactly what you don't want.
No, absolutely not. And in talking about flooding, I also want to ask Rashvin. Now, we know floods are a big factor annually for Kuala Lumpur as well. How did you assess how the city is contending with this threat? Because obviously, KL is not a coastal city.
Yeah, it's not a coastal city like Jakarta and Bangkok.
Yeah.
And flooding in Kuala Lumpur, I don't think is annual event anymore.
No?
I think it can happen anytime.
Oh.
So just a few days ago, on October 15th or 16th, large parts of Kuala Lumpur were flooded and our parliament was blocked off. So
Russian
Okay.
always on standby. Yeah.
so they had to start a bit late that day.
Okay.
And the last time some flash floods occurred were in August. So, and I think it's kind of unpredictable anymore. In Kuala Lumpur, they built a smart tunnel back in 2007. So that has a dual purpose. One is a highway from the southern part of the city to the city center.
Yeah.
It cuts down the time to drive.
Yeah.
But it also works as a flood diversion.
Yep.
So when it rains heavily, a lot of flood waters go into there. But it doesn't protect the whole of Kuala Lumpur. So maybe about 50%.
Okay.
So every time there's floods, the mayor will have to come out or minister will have to come out and say, oh, we are doing something. We are looking at mitigation projects.
Yeah.
And so the latest thing is like they have some projects to complete by April 2025. So they're looking at drainage systems, mitigation systems, and doing more periodic maintenance of their water retention ponds and that kind of thing.
There is also a huge divide when it comes to what are the best solutions. And many experts think that nature-based solutions are the answers. Nature-based being things like green spaces, land conservation, more trees and plants. But other experts say we need to build up more infrastructure, right? Now, what we know as great solutions, of course, like canals and dams and seawalls. How is that divide playing out?
You obviously have so many people who are able to make money from building grey infrastructure. Bangkok, at its core, is a floodplain.
Right.
When the city was built, people decided that this was a great place for the city. It's close to the sea, close to the rivers. But this is part of nature. These rivers naturally have to flow through this floodplain. Now the question is, as humans, can we control all of that nature? Can we funnel it through canals? Can we build the types of diversions and pond retentions that Rashvin was talking about? Or should we let nature actually complement how we design our cities to have these natural functions that have worked for so long? I spoke to experts who say we need to look to the past to understand how to live with water. Instead of being afraid of it, we need to embrace it. It is part of how these cities have formed for so long. And so when it comes to this idea of the pearl necklace again, or the philosophy of protecting Bangkok from flooding, mangroves are a big part of that. Mangrove forests along the Gulf
Absolutely,
are
yes.
what control water, stop the erosion, yet we have kind of overlooked their power for a long time.
Rashvin, some experts in Kuala Lumpur want the city to follow the path of many Chinese cities and become so-called sponge cities themselves. And for KL, it would mean lots of lakes, forests, parks that can absorb and divert flood waters, right? Can KL be a sponge city?
I can't tell the future. I think now the problem is with KL, development just goes on and on. A lot of green spaces are taken out to build a building. Maybe because of these buildings and all, we see more flash flooding. Our flash floods occur quickly. The water comes and it goes.
So that's good. It's going somewhere quite relatively
It is
quickly.
going
It's
somewhere.
not stagnating.
Yeah.
But it could be absorbed by
I think it could be
by
absorbed.
the green infrastructure that
Yeah.
you can implement into the city's design. But when everything's already so full.
Yeah.
And I think people want to see more green spaces now compared to grey infrastructure like tunnels and that kind of thing.
Nivell, you wrote that a lot of the issue for Jakarta is in the surrounding areas that are being developed rather than being preserved as nature areas, kind of picking up what Jack was just talking about. Isn't this making things worse?
Well, the Indonesian word for swamp is rawa. So you have areas in Jakarta called Rawa Mangun, Rawa Buaya, Rawa Jati. These are former swamps. These are former floodplains. These are where water overflowing from rivers eventually end up. after so many years, like it becomes a residential area, it becomes a commercial center, it becomes filled with all these buildings and houses. So all these natural places where water ended up and preventing the rest of the city from becoming inundated with water got built up, turned into a concrete jungle. But the problem is, if you want to bring back these areas to the way they were, that means relocating thousands and possibly millions of people. And that's always been a very politically sensitive issue, right? Even in the upstream areas, there you see a lot of like the forests over the years being converted into villas, restaurants, resorts, even theme parks nowadays. Of course, that reduces the capacity for the soil to absorb water. So there's this debate like, should we have more of a nature-based solution, or is it like too late now? Sadly, Jakarta cannot solve this issue alone. It needs to work together with the surrounding cities, the surrounding regencies, the surrounding provinces as well, because that's ultimately where the water originates.
Yes, another question also would be like, you can have all these solutions and all, but can you control the weather? How do we know how severe the weather might be in the future and all? And so then do you build and build and build?
Yeah.
This idea of future proofing, which you discuss in the story, that's the hardest moving metric that we have to contend with.
Some experts also suggested things like building a smart tunnel like Malaysia, or building the seawall like the Netherlands, for example. But Jakarta keeps expanding. It went from 3 million to 11 million in the last 40 years. What about the following 40 years? Do we need more infrastructure? Is it going to be enough?
Yeah,
tough
I think that's the
questions.
question. Is it when does it become enough?
Political stuff, right? Like more housing, as more people move in to cities.
Yeah.
And that's why our In Focus story is 5,000 words.
Yeah. So I would say, just to wrap up, please do jump on to read that 5,000 word piece. It's on the CNA website now. Check out the story that all three of us have done. There's also a video which you can see on the website and on YouTube as well. Okay, quiz time.
Hey, you guys want to join join me in answering Jack's quiz? They usually.
I don't think you're allowed to have extra help for
No.
a quiz.
He has
You'll
these doozy quizzes every week that they're insanely difficult.
All right, there'll be an asterisk if you get this one
Okay.
correct, because
Okay.
you've had outside help from experts now. Okay, to repeat the question, can you rank these cities by how much they're sinking each year? And I should note that this is based on peak subsidence rates, not median rates, which you guys would be across. Don't want to get too technical, but just have some fun thinking. So it's Ho Chi Minh City, Venice, Jakarta, Istanbul, and Manila.
Okay.
That's a hard one.
I want to say
Ho Chi Minh. You can see- you
Jakarta.
can see
I'm
them,
going to say
so you remember.
Jakarta. I'm going to go with Jakarta.
Jakarta, the worst.
The
Nivell,
worst.
You
Yeah.
agree?
Hey, 26
Interesting.
I think I'll
cm.
go with Jakarta as well.
Woohoo.
Okay.
Okay, second, I'm going to go with Venice. Okay.
Rashvin's looking like he doesn't agree.
I will go with Ho Chi Minh for number 2.
Oh, wow. Controversial. All right, number 3, I would go with Ho Chi Minh.
I would go with Manila
Oh, wow.
for number 3, yes.
Manila.
I think I would go with Manila, number 3.
Ooh. All right, number 4 for me, Manila.
Okay.
Well, Ho Chi Minh.
This is like a contest now between Li Ling and Rashvin. Nivell just bubbling along there in agreement with
I think I'll
everyone.
go Venice and then Istanbul.
Istanbul last for me, too.
Yeah, Istanbul last for me.
Okay.
All right.
The city that is sinking the least is Venice.
Really?
The least?
The least is Venice.
Oh.
So you've overplayed that one. Yeah, surprisingly, we always hear about Venice sinking. They have other issues that are causing the problems. It's only sinking just slightly.
Oh.
Fourth place was Manila.
Okay.
Third was Istanbul. Jakarta was second, and the worst of all, Ho Chi Minh City.
Right,
No
right,
way.
right.
Well, we totally crushed
I
it,
never
right?
knew that.
Yeah, don't
You
don't let
guys-
our editors hear that, otherwise we'll be off doing a second installment in Vietnam.
Ah. Wow. Okay. Well, that was a tough one.
I'm not even including Bangkok or KL in this quiz, so you slot them in as well, and it's a major regional problem. Okay, that's it for this episode of Climate Conversations. Thanks as always for joining us. see you next week. Not seeing you here next week.
No, but I'll be hearing from you and you'll be hearing from me.
Indeed.
Until then, I'm Liling Tan.
I'm Jack Board. Thanks as always to the team that put together this podcast. Tiffany Ang, Janani Jahari, Crispina Robert and Saye Win.